Number. The dragon mother hid her hunger for weeks until the human farmer left food at her door every night. The morning sun painted the grain fields golden as Hyun-woo walked between the rows of wheat. His boots crunched on the dry earth, and sweat already dampened his shirt despite the early hour. The colony planet Daehan 7 had 2 suns, and both were climbing the sky now. He stopped to check the irrigation lines, making sure water flowed properly to each section. Something felt wrong. Hyun-woo straightened and looked around. The fields stretched in every direction, but past them rose the rocky hills and the old cave system. That's where the feeling came from. The air seemed too quiet. Usually, small birds nested in the rocks and filled the morning with their songs. Today, silence. He wiped his forehead and decided to check the northern irrigation pump near the caves. As he walked closer to the rocky area, he noticed the first sign. Deep gouges marked the stone surface, 4 parallel lines that looked like claw marks. Each one was as long as his arm. Hyun-woo crouched down and touched the marks. Fresh. No weathering, no dirt filling them in yet. His heart beat faster. 3 weeks ago, the colony had received a warning. A ship had crashed in the mountains, not far from here. A Dracarine ship. Everyone knew about the Dracarine. Tall, powerful, covered in scales like ancient earth dragons. Warriors who never surrendered, never asked for help, never showed any weakness. The galaxy feared them. Hyun-woo stood and continued toward the caves, but more carefully now. He found broken branches arranged against the cave entrance, creating a rough shelter. Someone had done this recently. The branches still had green leaves. Near the entrance, he saw massive footprints in the soft dirt. 3-toed, with deep claw impressions at each toe's end. A Dracarine was living in his cave. He should report this. The colony had security forces, and they would want to know. Dracarine were dangerous. Everyone said so. But something made Hyun-woo hesitate. Those branches arranged as shelter, the way they were carefully placed, not just thrown together. That spoke of desperation, of someone trying to survive with whatever they could find. That night, Hyun-woo couldn't sleep. He lay in his small farmhouse bed and stared at the ceiling. His wife would have known what to do. She always knew the right thing, the kind thing, but she had been gone for 2 years now, taken by the plague that swept through the colony. Their small house felt too empty, too quiet. He thought about the Dracarine in the cave, alone. Hiding. The crashed ship in the mountains. No rescue parties. No other Dracarine searching. Maybe they were the only survivor. Around midnight, Hyun-woo made his decision. He got out of bed and went to his storage room. He filled a large basket with food, dried meat strips that would last for days, fresh vegetables from his garden, grain cakes he had baked yesterday, a container of clean water. It was a lot of food, more than he could easily spare, but something in his chest told him this was important. He carried the basket through the dark fields. Both moons were full tonight, giving plenty of light to see by. When he reached the cave entrance, he set the basket down carefully. Then he stepped back, far back, into the shadows of a large rock, and he waited. Minutes passed. Then, an hour. Hyun-woo's legs began to ache from standing still. He was about to give up when he heard it. A sound like rocks scraping together, deep and rumbling. Movement from inside the cave. A hand emerged from the darkness. Hyun-woo's breath caught in his throat. The hand was enormous, easily twice the size of his own. Scales covered it, deep green that looked almost black in the moonlight. 4 fingers, each tipped with a curved claw that gleamed like metal. The hand reached out, found the basket, and pulled it slowly into the darkness. For just a moment, Hyun-woo saw eyes, golden eyes that reflected the moonlight like mirrors. They looked at him across the distance, and in them, he saw something he recognized. Fear, pain, and desperate, aching hunger. Then the hand and eyes disappeared into the cave, and Hyun-woo was alone again. He walked home slowly, his mind full of questions. The Dracarine had seen him. They both knew the other existed now. What would happen next? Would the creature leave? Would they attack? Hyunwoo didn't know, but he felt certain of one thing. He would bring more food tomorrow night. The next day passed slowly. Hyunwoo worked in his fields, but his mind kept returning to the cave. He made excuses to work near the northern section, close to the rocks. Once, he thought he saw movement near the cave entrance, but when he looked directly, nothing was there. That evening, the colony security chief visited. Dae-sung arrived in his official vehicle, dust trailing behind it. He was a tall man, always serious, always suspicious. He stepped out of the vehicle and looked around Hyunwoo's farm with hard eyes. "Hyunwoo," Dae-sung said, "have you seen anything unusual?" "We're searching for the Dracarine from the crashed ship." Hyunwoo kept his face calm. "Unusual how?" "Large tracks. Signs of something living in caves or abandoned buildings. The creature is dangerous. If you see anything, report it immediately." Dae-sung's hand rested on his weapon. "We have authorization to eliminate the threat." "I haven't seen anything." Hyunwoo lied. The words felt wrong in his mouth, but his instinct told him to protect the creature in the cave. "Just been working my fields." Dae-sung studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Keep your eyes open. Desperate things are the most dangerous." He got back in his vehicle and drove away. That night, Hyunwoo brought more food, even more than the first night. If Dae-sung was right, if the Dracarine was desperate, they needed help. He left the basket and retreated to his watching spot. The hand came quicker this time. It grabbed the basket and pulled it inside. But this time, the creature stepped partially into the moonlight. Hyunwoo got his first real look. She was magnificent and terrifying at the same time. 3 meters tall, maybe more, covered in scales that shimmered even in the low light. Powerful muscles visible under the scales, a long tail that curved behind her. A face that mixed dragon features with something almost human in the eyes and the way emotions showed there. And in her arms, pressed against her chest, she held something small. Hyunwoo couldn't see clearly, but he heard a soft sound. A chirping, almost like a bird, but different. The Dracarine looked directly at him. Their eyes met across the distance. She could kill him easily, he knew. One swipe of those claws, and he would die. But she didn't move toward him. She just held his gaze for several heartbeats, then stepped back into the darkness, with her burden and the basket of food. Hyunwoo walked home in a daze. The Dracarine was female, and she was protecting something small, something that made baby sounds. Understanding flooded through him like cold water. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a mother. Everything made sense now. The desperate hiding, the careful shelter, the way she stayed in the cave despite being a creature obviously built for hunting and fighting. She was protecting her child, maybe children. In his small farmhouse, Hyunwoo sat at his kitchen table and put his head in his hands. A Dracarine mother, alone on a hostile world, slowly starving while trying to keep her babies alive. And every day, armed security forces searched for her, ready to kill. He thought of his wife again. They had wanted children so badly. They had dreamed of a family. Now she was gone, and he was alone. And somewhere out in the darkness was a mother who might lose everything. Hyunwoo stood and went to his storage room. He began making a list of everything he could spare. Food, blankets, medical supplies. Whatever a mother and her children might need, he would protect them. He didn't know how yet, but he would find a way. It was what his wife would have done. It was what any decent person should do. Outside, the moons climbed higher in the sky, casting their light over the cave where a dragon mother held her children close and wondered about the strange human who brought food to her door. The dragon mother, hid her hunger for weeks. until the human farmer left food at her door every night. Days turned into weeks, and Hyunwoo fell into a rhythm. Every night, after the colony's lights went dark and the roads emptied, he carried a basket of food to the cave. Every morning, when he went to check his northern fields, he found the empty basket sitting neatly outside the cave entrance. She never left a mess, never scattered food or damaged the basket. Everything was always clean and organized, placed carefully where he could find it easily. This small gesture of respect touched something deep in Hyunwoo's heart. She was trying to show gratitude in the only way she could. The third week, Hyunwoo started leaving notes. Simple drawings at first, because he didn't know if she could read human writing. He drew pictures of food with question marks, asking what she needed. The next morning, the paper was gone, but there was no answer. He kept trying. He drew pictures of the colony, of houses, of people. He drew a stick figure of himself next to his farm. Slowly, he was trying to communicate. This is me. I'm your friend. I want to help. One morning, he found scratches in the dirt near the basket. Not random scratches. Deliberate marks that formed shapes. He studied them for a long time before he understood. She was drawing too. The shapes showed a cave, a figure inside, and two small circles. She was telling him about herself and her children. Hyunwoo's hands shook as he realized they were actually communicating. This fierce, warrior species. These creatures the galaxy feared. She was reaching out to him in the only way she could. That night, he left extra food and a picture of himself smiling with a heart shape. But danger was growing closer. Dae-sung visited twice more, each time more suspicious. Your food purchases have increased, he said the second visit. Why does one man need so much food? I'm eating more, Hyunwoo said. Working harder in the fields, building up my strength. Dae-sung didn't look convinced, but he left without searching the property. Hyunwoo knew he was running out of time. Sooner or later, someone would follow him. Someone would discover the truth. He started being more careful. He varied the times he brought food. He took different paths to the cave. He made sure no vehicles were anywhere near his farm before he left his house. The constant worry ate at him, but he couldn't stop. That mother and her children needed him. 3 weeks became 4. 4 became 5. The basket exchanges continued every night without fail. Sometimes, Hyunwoo would sit near his watching rock and talk quietly into the darkness. He told stories about his farm, about his wife, about the colony. He didn't know if she listened, but it made him feel less alone. My wife's name was Ji-yeon, he said one night. She died during the plague. We wanted children, but we never got the chance. Sometimes I wonder what they would have been like. He paused, looking at the dark cave entrance. I think she would have approved of what I'm doing. She always said, the measure of a person is how they treat those who can't help themselves. No response came from the cave. But Hyunwoo thought he saw a shadow move near the entrance. Someone was listening. The next morning changed everything. Hyunwoo went to collect his basket as usual, but this time, something extra sat beside it. A piece of metal. About the size of his palm, it was beautifully made, with intricate carvings covering its surface. The metal was dark, almost black, but it caught the sunlight in rainbow colors. He picked it up carefully. The carvings showed symbols he didn't recognize, but they were clearly meaningful. This wasn't random decoration. This was important. He tucked it carefully into his pocket and went home to research. His computer had access to the colony's database, which included information about all known alien species. He spent hours searching through Dracharine cultural data. Finally, he found what he was looking for. The symbols on the metal piece meant gratitude. Deep, profound gratitude. Among the Dracharine, giving someone a piece of your armor was like giving them a piece of your soul. It meant you trusted them completely. Hyunwoo sat back in his chair, overwhelmed. She was thanking him. This proud warrior mother, this creature who came from a culture that never showed weakness, had given him one of the highest honors her species could offer. That night, he brought the best food he had. Fresh meat he had bought at the colony market. Expensive fruit imported from Earth. Soft bread, still warm from the oven. He added blankets, because the nights were getting colder. He included a small medical kit, hoping she would understand how to use it, and he left a note. This time, written in simple galactic standard, the common language most species could read. Thank you for your gift. You honor me. I will keep helping you. You and your children are safe here. The next morning, the basket was empty as usual, but scratched in the dirt beside it were words in galactic standard. The writing was rough, clearly made by claws not designed for delicate work, but readable. Thank you, small human. You save us. Hyun-woo stood there reading those words over and over until his vision blurred with tears. She could write. She could communicate. Properly. All this time, they had been struggling to understand each other, and now, finally, they had found a way. He wrote back immediately, scratching his response in the dirt with a stick. What do you need? Tell me. I will help any way I can. The next day, food, water, warmth, safety. You give all. Why? Hyun-woo thought carefully about his answer. He wrote, because you are a mother, protecting her children. Because you need help, and I can give it. Because it is right. The response came the next morning. Dracarine do not accept help. We are warriors. We survive alone, or die with honor. But my children, I must break our ways for them. You understand? I understand, Hyun-woo wrote back. Being a good parent means doing whatever necessary. Even hard things. Even breaking old rules. For the first time, there was no response for 2 days. Hyun-woo worried he had said something wrong. But he kept bringing food. Kept leaving the baskets. On the third day, new words appeared. You are wise, small human. What is your name? Hyun-woo, he wrote. What is yours? Karashin. My children are Bora and Hwan. We owe you life debt. From that day forward, their silent exchange became a conversation. Every morning, Hyun-woo would find messages scratched in the dirt. Karashin would tell him small things about her life, her species, her children. He would write back, sharing his own stories. They were becoming friends, even though they had never truly spoken face to face. Bora is brave, Karashin wrote one day, always trying to leave the cave. Hwan is careful, watching everything. They grow strong because of you. I'm glad, Hyun-woo wrote back. All children should grow strong and healthy. Tell me if you need anything special for them. But their peaceful exchange couldn't last forever. One morning, Hyun-woo found an urgent message. Danger. Heard voices in the hills. Hunters searching. We must be more careful. Hyun-woo. 101. Hyun-woo. 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 Woo. His blood ran cold. Dae-sung's security forces were getting closer. He wrote back quickly. I will be careful. Stay hidden. Stay quiet. I will warn you if danger comes close. That evening, Dae-sung appeared at Hyun-woo's farm again, but this time he brought 3 armed officers. We're searching all the properties near the rocky hills, he announced. We have authorization to check buildings and land. Hyun-woo's heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. Go ahead. I have nothing to hide. They searched his house, his storage buildings, even his vehicle. They found nothing suspicious. Hyun-woo had been careful to keep all evidence of his nighttime trips hidden away. But as they prepared to leave, one officer pointed toward the hills. What about those caves? They flood when it rains, Hyun-woo said quickly. Too dangerous to use for anything. I avoid them. Dae-sung studied him with narrow eyes. We'll search them anyway. Tomorrow morning. After they left, Hyun-woo ran to the cave. He didn't care about being careful anymore. He needed to warn Karashin. He reached the entrance and called into the darkness. Karashin, they're coming tomorrow. You need to leave. Silence answered him. Then, slowly, those golden eyes appeared in the darkness. Her voice rumbled out, speaking Galactic Standard. Cannot leave. Children too small to travel far. We hide deeper in the caves. It's not safe, Hyunwoo said desperately. They have weapons. If they find you, then we die, Karashin interrupted. But we die together, as family should. A pause. You have done enough, Hyunwoo. More than enough. If they find us, you must deny knowing. Save yourself. No, Hyunwoo said firmly. I won't abandon you. We'll find another way. He spent that night pacing his house, thinking desperately. There had to be a solution. There had to be a way to protect this mother and her children from the people who wanted to kill them. His mind raced with ideas, each one more desperate than the last. As dawn approached, Hyunwoo made his decision. He couldn't hide Karashin forever, and he couldn't fight the security forces. But maybe, just maybe, he could buy her time to escape. He would have to take the biggest risk of his life. He gathered all the food he could carry and headed to the cave one more time. The dragon mother hid her hunger for weeks until the human farmer left food at her door every night. The morning arrived too quickly. Hyunwoo stood at his kitchen window, watching the sun rise and dreading what the day would bring. Dae-sung and his officers would arrive soon to search the caves. Karashin and her children would be found. Everything would end. But then the sky changed. Dark clouds rolled in from the west, moving fast. Within an hour, thunder rumbled across the hills. Hyunwoo checked his weather monitor and felt his heart jump. A major storm was coming, one of the big ones that hit Daehan 7 every year. The kind that could flood the low areas and make the caves completely unusable. He grabbed his communicator and called Dae-sung. The storm's coming in fast, he said. You should postpone the cave search. Those areas flood in heavy rain. It's not safe. Dae-sung's annoyed voice came through the speaker. Fine. We'll search after the storm passes. But we will search, Hyunwoo. Count on it. The call ended, and Hyunwoo ran. He ran through his fields, toward the rocky hills, as the first raindrops began to fall. The wind picked up, whipping his clothes around his body. By the time he reached the cave entrance, the rain was pouring down in sheets. Karashin, he shouted into the darkness. Those golden eyes appeared almost immediately. Where can we go? Colony will see us. Colony will kill us. My barn, Hyunwoo said without hesitation. It's big enough. You can hide there during the storm. Please, your children will drown if you stay here. Karashin was silent for a long moment. Hyunwoo could hear small chirping sounds from deeper in the cave. The hatchlings, Bora and Hwan. They sounded distressed, sensing their mother's fear. You risk everything for us, Karashin said finally. Why, Hyunwoo? Why do you care so much about creatures you barely know? The rain soaked through Hyunwoo's clothes as he stood there, searching for the right words. Because you're a mother, protecting her children. Because I lost the chance to be a father. And I can't stand by and watch children suffer when I can help. Because you're not just some creature. You're a person, a mother, and you deserve kindness. Another long silence. Then, slowly, Karashin emerged from the cave. This was the first time Hyunwoo had seen her in full daylight, even dim, storm light. She was magnificent, 3 meters tall, powerful and graceful at once. Her scales were deep emerald green, dulled by weeks of poor nutrition but still beautiful. Scars marked her sides and arms, some old, some more recent, war wounds, probably from the crash. But what caught Hyunwoo's attention most were the 2 small shapes she carried. The hatchlings, Bora and Hwan, pressed against their mother's chest. They were each about the size of a human baby, covered in soft scales that hadn't hardened yet. Their eyes were wide and golden like their mother's, full of fear and confusion. Karashin looked at Hyunwoo, and he saw the war in her expression. pride, fighting against necessity, warrior training, fighting against mother's love. If I accept your help again, I can never repay this debt, she said quietly. In Dracarine culture, such a debt is sacred, eternal. I don't want repayment, Hyunwoo said. I want you and your children to be safe. Please, come with me before the water rises. The rain intensified, and water was already beginning to pool around their feet. Kara-shin made her decision. She nodded once, a sharp, dignified movement, and followed Hyunwoo toward his farm. They moved quickly despite the storm. Kara-shin was surprisingly quiet for such a large creature, her movements graceful and controlled. She kept the hatchlings tucked close to her body, protecting them from the worst of the rain. When they reached Hyunwoo's barn, he pulled open the large doors and ushered her inside. The barn was spacious, built to store equipment and harvest goods. Empty now, except for some tools and bags of grain. Hyunwoo quickly cleared out a corner, making a nest-like space with blankets and tarps. You can stay here, he said. The walls are thick. No one will hear you. Kara-shin looked around the space, then carefully set down her children. Free of her arms, Bora and Hwan immediately began exploring, chirping and wobbling on unsteady legs. They were so young, Hyunwoo realized. Probably only a few weeks old. They're beautiful, he said softly. Kara-shin watched her children with fierce protective love in her eyes. They are everything, she said. I was scout on exploration vessel. Warriors do not usually bring children on ships. But these two, they were unexpected blessing. We discovered I was carrying them 3 months into our mission. We were returning home early when the pirates attacked. She sat down heavily, and Hyunwoo saw how thin she really was. Her scales were stretched tight over her ribs. Her movements, though graceful, held the weakness of prolonged hunger. She had been feeding her children everything, keeping almost nothing for herself. I'll get you food, Hyunwoo said. He ran to his house through the storm and gathered everything he could carry. Meat, vegetables, bread, water. He made 3 trips, bringing enough food to feed a Dracarine properly. When he returned with the last load, he found Kara-shin feeding small pieces of meat to Bora and Hwan. They chirped happily, their tiny teeth tearing at the food. You need to eat too, Hyunwoo said, setting down the supplies. Children first, Kara-shin said automatically. No, Hyunwoo said firmly. Children need their mother healthy. Eat. That's an order. Kara-shin looked at him with surprise. Then something that might have been respect. She took a piece of bread and began eating. Slowly at first, then faster, as her body remembered what real food tasted like. Hyunwoo sat down nearby, giving her space but staying present. As the storm raged outside, they began to really talk for the first time. Kara-shin told him about her world, about Dracarine culture. Warriors from birth, trained to be strong, to never show weakness. To die with honor, rather than accept help from others. It was a harsh culture, but one they had followed for thousands of years. But it is wrong, Kara-shin said quietly. I see this now. My pride almost killed my children. If you had not brought food, we would have died in that cave. Not with honor. Just died, alone, forgotten. You're not alone anymore, Hyunwoo said. He told her his story too. About his wife, Ji-yeon. How they had come to Daehan 7, with dreams of building a new life. How the plague had taken her suddenly, leaving him with a farm and a future he no longer wanted. How he had been just going through the motions of living. Not really living at all. Until he found those claw marks near the cave. You gave me purpose again, he admitted. Taking care of you and your children. It made me feel like I was doing something that mattered. Kara-shin studied him with those intelligent golden eyes. You are strange human, Hyunwoo. In my culture, you would be considered weak. soft. But I think maybe my culture is wrong about this. Your softness is actually great strength. Strength to care when others would not. Strength to risk yourself for others. Little Bora wobbled over to Hyunwoo, chirping curiously. She had eaten her fill and now wanted to explore. She sniffed his hand, her tiny nose twitching. Then she climbed into his lap and curled up, making a contented sound deep in her throat. Hyunwoo froze, afraid to move and disturb her. He looked at Karashin with wide eyes. Is this okay? Karashin's expression softened in a way that transformed her fierce face into something gentle. She has accepted you. In Drakarine culture, this is rare. Hatchlings usually fear all but their mother, but Bora feels safe with you. She paused. Hwan, come here. The other hatchling, who had been watching from behind his mother, slowly approached. He was more cautious than his sister, but he too came to Hyunwoo and sniffed him carefully. After a moment, he also settled near Hyunwoo, leaning against his leg. They know you saved us, Karashin said softly. Children always know the truth. Even when adults try to hide it, Hyunwoo felt tears on his cheeks. He had never thought he would hold children. Never thought he would feel this connection. These weren't human children. But in this moment, species didn't matter. They were babies who needed protection, and he could give it. The storm raged for 3 days. During that time, Hyunwoo stayed mostly in the barn, helping care for Bora and Hwan. Karashin taught him about Drakarine hatchlings, what they needed, how to hold them properly, what sounds meant, hunger versus fear versus happiness. The hatchlings grew stronger each day with proper food and warmth. Hyunwoo also learned about Karashin herself. She was intelligent, quick-witted, and had a dry sense of humor that surprised him. She asked questions about human culture, about farming, about everything she saw. Despite her warrior training, she was curious about the world. On my world, we have no farms like this, she said, watching him explain his irrigation system. We hunt, we gather, but we do not make food grow. It is impressive, patient work. Warrior work is fast, explosive. But this is different kind of strength. Maybe when you're safe you can help me with the farm, Hyunwoo suggested. You're certainly strong enough. Karashin looked at him strangely. You would want this? Drakarine working your farm? Why not? You need something to do, and I could use the help. He smiled. Besides, I think Bora and Hwan would enjoy playing in the fields. Duda. For the first time, Karashin made a sound like laughter. It was rough and unused, but definitely laughter. You plan future for us. You have hope. We will survive this. We will, Hyunwoo said with more confidence than he felt. We'll find a way. On the 4th day, the storm ended. The sun came out, and Hyunwoo knew their borrowed time was over. Daesung would come soon to search the caves. They would find evidence of Karashin living there, and the search would expand. It was only a matter of time before someone checked the barn. That evening, as Hyunwoo fed Bora and Hwan, Karashin spoke quietly. You should turn us in. What? Hyunwoo looked at her in shock. It is best solution. You tell security we are here. You say we threatened you, forced you to help. You will be safe. We will die. But this is acceptable. Better than you, suffering for us. No, Hyunwoo said flatly. Absolutely not. Be reasonable, Karashin said. What other option is there? Hyunwoo looked at the hatchlings playing with a piece of rope, so innocent and full of life. He looked at Karashin, who had become a friend in these short days. He thought about his wife and what she would do. I don't know yet, he admitted. But I'll think of something. I'm not giving up on you. The dragon mother, hid her hunger for weeks until the human farmer left food at her door every night. The days after the storm brought unexpected peace. Daesung's security forces searched the caves and found evidence that someone had been living there. Old food scraps, the makeshift shelter, marks on the ground. But the flooding had washed away the trail. They had no idea where the Dracarine had gone. Hyun-woo watched from his fields as the security vehicles drove back and forth across the hills, searching. His heart pounded every time they came near his farm. But they never searched his barn. Why would they? Everyone knew Hyun-woo was just a simple farmer, living alone, causing no trouble. In the barn, Karashin and her children adapted to their new home. During the day, they stayed quiet and hidden. At night, when darkness covered the farm, they emerged. Hyun-woo would open the barn doors, and the hatchlings would run out into the fields, playing and exploring under the stars. Watching Bora and Hwan play filled Hyun-woo with joy he hadn't felt in years. Bora was bold and curious, always running ahead, investigating everything. Hwan was more careful, staying close to his mother. But his intelligence showed in the way he studied everything around him. Bora will be great warrior, Karashin said one night, watching her daughter chase insects through the wheat. Fearless. Strong. But Hwan, he will be strategist. Thinker. Both important for our people. Will you go back to your world? Hyun-woo asked. When they're older? Karashin was quiet for a long time. I do not know. My people believe I died in the crash. If I return with children born during dishonor, during survival instead of glorious battle, they may reject us. Dracarine culture is not kind to those who break tradition. Then stay here, Hyun-woo said. Build a new life. You don't have to follow old rules that hurt you. Maybe, Karashin said softly. Maybe new life is possible. As weeks passed, something unexpected happened. Karashin began helping with the farm work at night. Her strength was incredible. She could move equipment that took Hyun-woo hours to shift. She could dig irrigation ditches in minutes. Her sharp eyesight could spot problems in the crops that Hyun-woo would have missed. You are good at this, Hyun-woo said, watching her expertly arrange drainage stones. Natural farmer. Is honest work, Karashin replied. I like seeing things grow. Warrior work is destroying. This is creating. Better. They worked together through the nights, and Hyun-woo found himself talking to her more easily than he had talked to anyone since his wife died. They discussed everything. Philosophy, culture, dreams, fears. Despite coming from different worlds and different species, they discovered they had more in common than either expected. The hatchlings grew rapidly. Within 2 months, they were twice their original size and starting to develop their adult scales. They began making more complex sounds, almost like words. Karashin explained they were learning to speak, and soon they would be able to form proper sentences. One night, little Bora looked at Hyun-woo and chirped, Papa? Hyun-woo froze. He looked at Karashin in shock. Did she just... She sees you as parent, Karashin said. Her expression was complicated, mixing emotions Hyun-woo couldn't quite read. In Dracarine culture, when hatchling accepts someone other than mother as parent, it is sacred bond. You have become part of our family. Hyun-woo knelt down, and both hatchlings ran to him, chirping, Papa! Papa! He hugged them carefully, mindful of their developing scales and sharp little claws. His heart felt too big for his chest. I never thought I'd be a father, he said, his voice thick. Especially not to dragon children. Strange family we make, Karashin agreed. But good family. But their peaceful time couldn't last forever. 2 months after the storm, Hyun-woo had a visitor he didn't expect. Young Mi, the colony's botanist, drove up to his farm one afternoon. She was young, maybe 25, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She specialized in studying Daehan 7's native plants and often borrowed tools from Hyun-woo. Hyun-woo, she said, getting out of her vehicle. I need to borrow your soil tester. Mine broke. Sure, Hyun-woo said, trying to keep his voice casual. It's in the barn. I'll get it. I can grab it, Young-mi said, already walking toward the barn. I know Where you keep things. Wait! Hyunwoo ran after her, but he was too late. Youngmi opened the barn door and stepped inside. Then, she stopped, dead. Karashin stood in the center of the barn, frozen in place. Bora and Hwan pressed against their mother's legs, their eyes wide. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Youngmi whispered, "Oh my God, you're the Drakareen everyone's looking for." Hyunwoo stepped between Youngmi and Karashin, his hands raised peacefully. "Youngmi, please listen. Let me explain." "Explain what?" Youngmi's voice was shaking, but not entirely with fear. Her scientist's mind was clearly working, studying Karashin with fascination. "Explain why you're hiding a dangerous alien." "She's not dangerous," Hyunwoo said firmly. "She's a mother protecting her children. Look at them. Really, look." Youngmi's gaze dropped to the hatchlings. Bora and Hwan were clinging to their mother, making small, distressed sounds. They looked terrified. Youngmi's expression softened slightly. "They're babies," she said quietly. "Yes," Hyunwoo said. "She crashed here alone and pregnant. She survived the crash and gave birth in a cave. She was starving when I found her. What was I supposed to do? Let her die? Let the children die?" Karashin spoke for the first time, her deep voice making Youngmi jump. "I mean no harm to your colony. I only want to raise my children in peace. If you must report me, I understand. But please, let Hyunwoo claim he knew nothing. He is innocent of wrongdoing." Youngmi stared at Karashin, clearly shocked that she could speak. "I am warrior scout," Karashin said with dignity. "I speak 7 languages. I am not mindless beast." The 3 adults stood in tense silence. The hatchlings chirped nervously. Finally, Youngmi lowered her gaze and took a deep breath. "I'm not going to report you," she said. "But Hyunwoo, this is insane. If Dae-sung finds out—" "I know the risks," Hyunwoo interrupted. "But I couldn't live with myself if I didn't help." Youngmi studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "My grandmother always said the measure of a person is how they treat those weaker than themselves. You're a good man, Hyunwoo." She looked at Karashin. "What do you need? Medical supplies? Food? I can help." Relief flooded through Hyunwoo. "You'll help us?" "I'll help," Youngmi confirmed. "But we need to be smart about this. Dae-sung is getting more aggressive in his search. He's convinced the Drakareen is still in the area." She was right. Over the next week, security patrols increased. Dae-sung's men checked every building, every cave, every possible hiding place. They questioned colonists about unusual activity. The net was tightening. Youngmi proved invaluable. She brought medical supplies for Karashin's old wounds. She helped Hyunwoo set up better hiding places in the barn. She even managed to hack into the security patrol schedules, giving them advance warning when officers would be nearby. But despite their precautions, word began to spread. A few colonists had seen strange shadows moving on Hyunwoo's farm at night. Others noticed his increased food purchases. Rumors started. Maybe the Drakareen was still alive. Maybe someone was hiding her. Then everything fell apart. A transport driver, making a late-night delivery to a nearby farm, saw Karashin in Hyunwoo's field. The driver reported it immediately to Dae-sung. Within hours, the colony was in an uproar. Emergency meetings were called. Dae-sung argued passionately that Karashin was a threat that must be eliminated. She was dangerous, unpredictable, possibly planning to attack the colony. Some colonists agreed, fear overwhelming their compassion, but others disagreed. Youngmi spoke at the emergency meeting, describing what she had seen. A mother protecting her children, not a violent monster. A few other colonists who had heard the full story also spoke up, arguing for mercy. The colony split into 2 camps. Those who feared Karashin wanted her killed or captured. Those who sympathized wanted her protected. The debate grew heated. angry. Violence seemed possible. Hyun-woo stood before the assembled colonists and made his case. Karashin is not our enemy. She's a refugee who crashed on our world and did her best to survive. Yes, she's Dracarine. And yes, her people have fought against other species. But she's also a mother who loves her children. She's worked on my farm, helped me, proven she's peaceful. I'm asking you to see her as a person, not as a monster. She's dangerous, Dae-sung shouted. Her kind have killed thousands across the galaxy. She has done nothing to harm us, Young-mi countered. The only crime she's committed is existing. Is that really worth killing her for? The debate raged for hours. Finally, the colony administrator called for a vote. Should they report Karashin to the Galactic Council, or should they grant her refuge? Before the vote could happen, an alarm sounded. A Galactic Council patrol ship had just entered orbit. They had heard the reports of a Dracarine on Daehan 7 and were coming to investigate. The ship would land within the hour. Hyun-woo's heart sank. The Galactic Council had standing bounties on Dracarine warriors due to ongoing conflicts. If they found Karashin, they would either arrest her or kill her on sight. The Council didn't care about individual stories or circumstances. They only saw Dracarine as enemies. He ran from the meeting hall back to his farm. He had to warn Karashin. He had to save her somehow. But as he ran, he realized he had no plan. No way to hide her from Council forces with their advanced sensors and trained soldiers. When he reached the barn, Karashin was already preparing to leave. She had bundled up supplies and was holding Bora and Juan close. I will run, she said calmly, into the mountains. It is best chance. You won't survive, Hyun-woo said desperately. They'll track you. The mountains are harsh. Please, there has to be another way. There is no other way, Karashin said. She placed one large hand on Hyun-woo's shoulder. You gave us time. You gave us strength. We will never forget. But now we must try to survive alone. Little Bora chirped. Papa, stay with us? Hyun-woo's eyes filled with tears. I can't, little one. I'm sorry. In the distance, the sound of engines grew louder. The council ship was landing. Time had run out. The dragon mother hid her hunger for weeks, until the human farmer left food at her door every night. The Galactic Council ship landed in the colony's main square, its engines kicking up dust and making the ground shake. Hyun-woo stood in his barn with Karashin, knowing their time had run out. Outside, he could hear vehicles approaching. Dae-sung's security forces, probably, coming to surround his farm before the council officers arrived. Go, Hyun-woo urged. Take the children and run now, while there's still time. But Karashin didn't move. She stood tall, her scales gleaming in the barn's light. Her children pressed against her legs. Her golden eyes were calm, accepting. No. I run no more. I hide no more. This ends today. One way or another. They'll kill you, Hyun-woo said desperately. Maybe. Karashin agreed. But maybe not. You taught me something important. Hyun-woo. You taught me that showing weakness can be strength. Asking for help can be bravery. Maybe it is time my people learned this lesson too. Before Hyun-woo could respond, the barn doors burst open. Dae-sung stood there with 6 armed security officers. Behind them, Hyun-woo could see colonists gathering, drawn by the commotion. The crowd was growing rapidly. Step away from the creature, Hyun-woo, Dae-sung ordered, his weapon raised. Her name is Karashin, Hyun-woo said, not moving. And she's not a creature. She's a person. She's a Dracarine warrior, Dae-sung snapped. She's dangerous. We're taking her into custody until the council decides what to do with her. Karashin spoke then, her voice carrying easily across the crowd. I surrender myself peacefully. I ask only that my children be spared. They have done no wrong. I consent you. A murmur ran through the growing crowd. Many had never seen a Dracarine before. They expected a monster, something wild and violent. Instead, they saw a mother holding her children, speaking calmly, offering no threat. Young-mi pushed through the crowd. She's lived here for months and hasn't hurt anyone. She's worked Hyun-woo's farm. She's taken care of her children. What crime has she committed? Existing. Someone in the crowd called out. Her people are at war with the council. Her people, yes, Young-mi shot back. But what has she done? She crashed here by accident. She was hiding, trying to survive. Hyun-woo fed her because she was starving. Is compassion now a crime? More colonists joined the argument. The crowd was dividing again. Just like at the meeting. Some agreed with Dae-sung that Kara-shin was too dangerous to allow to live. Others, moved by seeing her with her children, argued she deserved mercy. Then a new voice cut through the noise. Everyone step back. Council authority here. A human man in council uniform pushed through the crowd. He was older. Maybe 60. With gray hair and sharp eyes that took in everything. 2 council guards flanked him. Their weapons ready, but not raised. I am Ambassador Tae-young, the man said. I'm here to assess the situation with the Drakarin refugee. He looked at Kara-shin with interest. You speak Galactic Standard? Yes, Kara-shin said. I am Kara-shin, formerly warrior scout of the Drakarin Void Fleet. My ship was attacked by pirates and crashed on this world. I am sole survivor. These are my children, Bora and Hwan, born here. Tae-yang studied the hatchlings. You gave birth alone, after a crash? That's remarkable. How did you survive? Kara-shin turned her golden eyes to Hyun-woo. This human saved us. Every night, he brought food to my hiding place. He asked nothing in return. When floods threatened us, he offered his barn as shelter. He protected us when his own people wanted us dead. He showed me that strength and kindness are not opposites. Is this true? Tae-young asked Hyun-woo. Yes, Hyun-woo said firmly. I found her starving in a cave with newborn children. I couldn't let them die. It didn't matter that she was Drakarin. She needed help, and I could give it. You realize you broke several council regulations, Tae-yang said. Harboring a potentially hostile alien, failing to report first contact, endangering your colony. I know, Hyun-woo said. And I'd do it again. Some rules are worth breaking when lives are at stake. Tae-young was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. Perhaps you're right. He turned to Kara-shin. The council has standing protocols for dealing with Drakarin. Your people are considered hostile combatants in several sectors. Normally, we would arrest you and transport you to a detention facility. Kara-shin bowed her head. I understand. I ask only that my children be cared for. They are innocent of their mother's crimes. What crimes? Young-mi demanded. What has she actually done? Tell me one thing she's done wrong. Her people are at war, Dae-sung started. She is not at war. Young-mi interrupted. She's a refugee. A survivor. A mother. Judge her by her actions, not by her species. A colonist in the crowd spoke up, an older woman named Mi-sun who ran the colony's school. I've been listening to this story. I've heard what she did, how she hid to protect her children, how she accepted help from Hyun-woo despite her pride. That takes courage. Real courage. Another colonist added, My son was sick last year. Hyun-woo brought us food every day until he recovered. He's a good man. If he says she's not a threat, I believe him. More voices joined in. The crowd's mood was shifting. Many colonists had benefited from Hyun-woo's kindness over the years. He had helped build barns, shared equipment, given food to families in need. If he vouched for Kara-shin, maybe they should listen. But others remained fearful. What happens when more Drakarin come? Someone shouted. What if she's a spy? What if this is all a trick? Kara-shin spoke again, her voice steady and strong. I understand your fears. My people are warriors. We are proud, often to fault. We believe showing weakness means death. Asking for help means dishonor. Because of this, we have made enemies across the galaxy. We fight alone, trust no one, and wonder why we are isolated. She gestured to Hyunwoo and her children. But this human showed me different way. He was weak by my people's standards. Soft, emotional. Yet, his weakness saved my life. His softness gave my children a future. His emotions drove him to risk everything for strangers. Karashin stepped forward, and everyone tensed. But she didn't attack. Instead, she knelt. A Draharine warrior, kneeling before humans. Gasps rippled through the crowd. In Draharine culture, we kneel only before those we acknowledge as superior. Karashin said, I kneel now before this colony. Before this human who saved me. To acknowledge that my people's way is not always right. There is strength in compassion. There is honor in helping the helpless. If humans can teach us this, maybe there is hope for peace between our peoples. Silence fell over the crowd. Even Dae Sung had lowered his weapon, staring at the kneeling Dracarine in shock. This was unprecedented. Dracarine never knelt, never surrendered, never admitted fault. Ambassador Taeyang stepped forward. His expression was thoughtful, calculating. Karashin rose gracefully. Bora and Hwan pressed against her legs, chirping softly. Little Bora looked at Hyunwoo and called out, Papa? The sound of that small voice, calling a human Papa, seemed to break something in the crowd. Many colonists had children. They understood the bond between parent and child. They saw these hatchlings, innocent and afraid, and their hearts softened. Taeyang made his decision. The Galactic Council's mission is to promote peace and cooperation between species. Sometimes that means enforcing rules. Sometimes it means recognizing when rules need to change. He looked at Karashin. Your testimony here. Your willingness to humble yourself. Your acknowledgement of your people's flaws. These things have value. They could open doors that have been closed for generations. What are you saying? Dae Sung demanded. I'm saying that I'm granting Karashin refugee status, Taeyang announced. First Dracarine ever to receive such protection from the Galactic Council. She will remain on Daehan 7 under colony supervision. Her case will be reviewed by the full council. But I believe this is an opportunity for diplomatic breakthrough. The crowd erupted in noise. Some cheered. Others protested. Dae Sung looked furious. But he couldn't argue with council authority. Hyunwoo felt his knees go weak with relief. Youngmi was grinning. Taeyang continued. However, there are conditions. Karashin must agree to share information about Dracarine culture with council diplomats. She must allow monitoring of her activities. And she must prove through her actions that peaceful coexistence between humans and Dracarine is possible. I accept all conditions, Karashin said immediately. Gladly. Furthermore, Taeyang said, turning to Hyunwoo, you will be responsible for her integration into colony life. Can you handle that? Hyunwoo looked at Karashin and her children. His strange, unexpected family. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Taeyang nodded. Then it's settled. This situation will be documented as a precedent case for council refugee policy. Karashin, welcome to your new home. The crowd slowly dispersed, still buzzing with conversation and debate. Dae Sung left angrily. But he couldn't act against council orders. Youngmi hugged Hyunwoo, then carefully hugged Karashin too, making the tall Dracarine look surprised and oddly pleased. That evening, as the sun set over Daehan 7, Hyunwoo sat outside his barn with Karashin. Bora and Hwan played in the fields, chasing insects and tumbling over each other. The immediate danger had passed. What happens now? Karashin asked quietly. Now we live, Hyunwoo said. We work the farm. We raise your children. We show everyone that humans and Dracarine can be friends. Maybe even family. Family, Karashin repeated. Strange concept. But good one. She was quiet for a moment. You know, when I first crashed here, I wanted to die. Warrior's death. Honorable and quick. But you wouldn't let me. You kept bringing food, kept showing kindness. You were stubborn. So were you, Hyunwoo said with a smile. You kept hiding, kept trying to survive alone. We are both stubborn, Karashin agreed. Good quality for farmers, yes? They sat in comfortable silence, watching the hatchlings play. 6 months ago, Hyunwoo had been alone, going through motions of living, without really living. Now he had purpose, family, and hope for the future. Thank you, Karashin said softly, for seeing me as person, not monster, for saving my children, for teaching me that my people's way is not only way. Thank you for trusting me, Hyunwoo replied, for letting me be part of your family, for giving me a reason to care again. In the distance, a transport vehicle approached. Ambassador Tae-yang had mentioned that other council representatives would visit to document this historic case. News was spreading fast. The story of the human farmer and the Dracarine mother was reaching other worlds. 3 months later, something remarkable happened. A small Dracarine delegation requested permission to visit Daehan 7. They wanted to meet Karashin, to understand how she survived and why she accepted human help. It was the first peaceful Dracarine contact with the council in over a century. Hyunwoo's farm became an unlikely diplomatic center. Dracarine diplomats met with human officials, with Karashin serving as translator and bridge between the cultures. She spoke honestly about her experiences, about the flaws in Dracarine tradition, about the kindness humans had shown her. Slowly, carefully, relationships began to form. The Dracarine delegates were initially suspicious and hostile, but watching Bora and Hwan play with human children from the colony softened them. Seeing Karashin work happily alongside Hyunwoo, seeing her healthy and strong, made them question their beliefs about weakness and strength. Youngmi established a cultural exchange program. She brought Dracarine plants to study earth agriculture techniques. Some younger Dracarine warriors, inspired by Karashin's story, requested permission to visit and learn from the colony. The farm prospered too. With Karashin's strength and Hyunwoo's knowledge, they expanded operations. They hired some colonists to help with harvests. The farm became successful beyond Hyunwoo's wildest dreams, not because of profit, but because it represented something larger. Proof that different species could work together. Bora and Hwan grew rapidly. By their first birthday, they were as large as adult humans, though still children by Dracarine standards. They spoke both Galactic Standard and Dracarine language fluently. They played with human children from the colony, teaching them Dracarine games while learning human sports. The hatchlings became symbols of hope. Here were children who belonged to both cultures, who saw no contradiction in having a human father and a Dracarine mother. They were living proof that the old hatreds could end. One evening, a year after the council ship had landed, Hyunwoo and Karashin stood on a hill overlooking the expanded farm. The fields stretched wide now, golden with ready wheat. Workers, both human and Dracarine, moved through the rows. In the distance, they could see the colony, where more Dracarine refugees had been granted permission to settle. Did you ever imagine this? Hyunwoo asked. When you were hiding in that cave? Never, Karashin admitted. I imagined only death. Instead, I found life, family, purpose, change. She looked at him with her golden eyes. All because you left food at my door. Best decision I ever made, Hyunwoo said. Bora and Hwan ran up the hill, laughing and pushing each other playfully. They had been working in the fields, learning the family business. Both were covered in dirt and looked happy. Papa, Mama, come see, Bora called. We found something in the south field. The family walked together down the hill, toward whatever discovery awaited. Behind them, the sun set in brilliant colors across the sky. Before them, the future stretched out full of possibility. What had started with simple kindness had transformed into something far greater. One human's compassion for a desperate mother had opened doors between two species that many thought would forever be enemies. It proved that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or weapons or conquest. It was the capacity to see past fear and hatred, to recognize the common bonds of parenthood and survival, to extend a hand in friendship even when everything said to turn away. It was the courage to leave food at a stranger's door, night after night, asking nothing in return. That simple act of leaving food had changed everything. It had saved a family. It had sparked a diplomatic revolution. It had shown the galaxy that peace was possible, if only people had the courage to try. And it all began with a farmer, a basket of food, and a dragon mother hiding her hunger in the darkness.